Alex Eala walked onto the grass at Berlin's Steffi Graf Stadium as a wild card, and just 4 days later, 3 of the world's best players had been sent home because of her. This was not a prediction, a glimpse of future potential, or another unfinished chapter filled with question marks. It was real. The victory over Elena Rybakina happened. The win against Alina Svitolina happened. And the way those matches unfolded revealed something important about where Eala's game truly stands today. Something that rankings, seedings, and comfortable narratives about potential had been slow to recognize. To understand it properly, the details matter far more than the headlines. Before arriving in Berlin, Eala had already built momentum on grass. Just 2 weeks earlier, she battled through 5 demanding rounds at a WTA 125 event in Birmingham. In the final against Nikola Bardonkova, she lost the opening set, faced multiple setbacks in the deciding set, and somehow found a way to prevail 5-7, 6-3, 7-5 after 2 hours and 38 minutes of intense tennis. The title was her second WTA 125 crown and her first ever on grass. Yet afterward, she remained grounded, saying, "Lifting this trophy does not mean that I will be among the greats yet." That statement revealed exactly who arrived in Berlin, not a player carried by hype, but an athlete who had spent a week proving something to herself and who understood that much more work still lay ahead. Her opening round opponent was Donna Vekic, hardly an easy draw. Vekic entered the tournament with strong grass court form and plenty of experience, making the challenge a serious test. But Eala stepped onto the court with growing confidence, sharper belief, and a game that was beginning to demand attention from the entire tennis world. Donna Vekic arrived in Berlin playing the best grass court tennis of her career. She was riding a wave of consecutive victories, striking the ball with confidence, power, and precision after dismantling top opponents throughout the week in London. For a set and a half, her match against Alex Eala was a fierce battle. Vekic broke early to surge ahead 2-0 and looked every bit like a player who had lifted a title just 6 days earlier. But Eala refused to back down. She fought her way back to take a 4-2 lead, lost that advantage, and soon found herself in a tense struggle while trailing 4-5. Under pressure, Eala responded brilliantly, breaking Vekic twice to steal the opening set. The second set was just as tight. Eala secured an early break in the opening game and held for a 2-0 lead. From there, both players protected their serves until Eala stepped up to serve for the match at 5-4. What followed became one of the defining moments of her week. She immediately fell behind 0-40, facing 3 break points against an experienced opponent who knew how to finish matches. Yet Eala remained composed, saving all 3 break points before winning 4 consecutive points to close out a remarkable straight sets victory, 7-5, 6-4. The scoreline alone does not capture the drama. The real story is what happened at 0-40 while serving for the match and the courage she displayed in the points that followed. But Berlin was only getting started. In the second round, Eala faced an even greater challenge in Elena Rybakina, the world number 2, the 2022 Wimbledon champion, and the 2026 Australian Open champion who had defeated Aryna Sabalenka in Melbourne just 5 months earlier. Rybakina had been one of the most dominant players on the WTA Tour throughout the first half of the season, collecting 31 main draw victories, more than any other player. She was also the only woman to reach the round of 16 at all 6 WTA 1000 events in 2026. Their previous meeting in Rome had been a one-sided affair, with Rybakina using her powerful forehand to move Eala relentlessly around the court, winning 45% of Eala's second serve points and cruising to a straight sets victory, 6-4, 6-3. There was no debate about who had been better that day. Rybakina knew it, and Eala knew it as well. That is what made their Berlin rematch so fascinating. Rybakina began the match looking determined to end it before it truly began. She fired 3 aces in her opening service game, held comfortably again, broke Eala's serve, and quickly built a commanding 4-1 lead. 5 aces had already flown off her racket within the first 20 minutes, and it appeared the world number 2 was firmly in control. Yet what happened next would become one of the most memorable performances of Alex Eala's career. This was the Elena Rybakina who had conquered Melbourne, the player whose serve often feels like a locked door with no way through. Opponents frequently find themselves pushed farther and farther behind the baseline until she decides the point with a crushing forehand. At 4-1 in the opening set, every piece of conventional wisdom suggested this would be a routine victory for the world number 2. But what happened next was not a collapse from Rybakina. It was the result of a deliberate and intelligent tactical adjustment from Alex Eala. Eala understood that she could never win a battle of aces against Rybakina. That contest was effectively decided before the first ball was struck. Rybakina would finish the match with 13 aces compared to Eala's 4. Instead, Eala recognized something hidden beneath the scoreboard. Although Rybakina was dominating with power, she was being forced to create almost every point herself. Her winners were spectacular, but they came at a cost. She was constantly required to take risks and make aggressive decisions under pressure. Eala stopped trying to match Rybakina's power and focused on neutralizing it. She shortened her backswing on returns, prioritized depth over sharp angles, and committed herself to a simple but incredibly difficult task against one of the biggest hitters in women's tennis: keep the ball in play. Again and again, she forced Rybakina to hit one extra shot, then another, and then another. Slowly, the mathematics of the match began to shift. The unforced errors started to rise. The precision that had fueled Rybakina's early lead began to fade. By the end of the opening set, Rybakina had accumulated 23 unforced errors, while Eala had stormed back from 1-4 down by winning 6 consecutive games to take the set 7-5. Over the course of the entire match, the contrast became even more striking. Rybakina finished with 41 unforced errors, while Eala committed just 19. It was a masterclass in discipline, patience, and tactical execution, proving that elite tennis is not always won by the player who hits the ball hardest, but often by the player who understands exactly how to disrupt the rhythm of an opponent who does. That 22 error differential was ultimately the difference in the match. But what happened after Alex Eala captured the first set is even more revealing, because this is often the moment where young players struggle against elite opponents. They fight hard to steal a set, only for the magnitude of the opportunity to weigh on them. The body tightens, the returns become cautious, the serve loses pace, and the upset that seemed possible slowly slips away. Eala did the opposite. Rather than shrinking under the moment, she expanded into it. She broke Elena Rybakina's serve in the second game of the second set, immediately reinforcing the pressure she had created. She held confidently for a 2-0 lead, then continued to protect her advantage at 3-1 and 4-2. At one point, she struck a brilliant cross-court forehand winner that left Rybakina rooted to the spot, unable to do anything but watch the ball fly past. Then came perhaps the boldest moment of the match. Serving at 5-4 with a match point opportunity within reach, Eala faced a break point at 15-30. Under immense pressure, she delivered her fourth ace of the entire match. Not her first or second, but her fourth and final ace, arriving at the exact moment she needed it most. It was a statement of courage and conviction. 2 points later, a Rybakina error sealed one of the biggest victories of Eala's career, a stunning 7-5, 6-4 triumph completed in just 1 hour and 32 minutes. Yet the statistics and tactics only tell part of the story. Eala's own words afterward captured the emotional reality of what she had just accomplished. "I am a little foggy right now. I'm still shaking, and I was shaking on match point too." There was nothing rehearsed about her reaction. She immediately called her father, and the two of them screamed into the phone together. Her mother was there as well. It was not the calm gratitude of someone who had expected to win. It was the genuine shock and joy of a young player who had just defeated the world number 2 and was experiencing the full weight of that achievement in real time. Waiting for her in the quarterfinals was another enormous challenge: Alina Svitolina. Ranked world number 8 and a former world number 3, Svitolina had reinvented herself after becoming a mother, returning to the highest levels of the sport and producing some of the finest tennis of her career. For Eala, the opportunity to continue her remarkable Berlin run would require yet another extraordinary performance. In the month leading up to Berlin, Alina Svitolina had defeated the world numbers 2, 3, and 4 in consecutive matches at another tournament. This was not a veteran relying solely on experience or finding ways to survive. This was a player operating at an elite level, one who had recently proven she could beat anyone in the world. Yet Alex Eala stepped onto the court and produced another statement performance, winning 6-3, 6-4. This time, the scoreline accurately reflected the flow of the match because Eala controlled the contest from the very beginning. She broke serve in the second game, held comfortably, and raced to a 3-0 lead before Svitolina could settle into any rhythm. When Svitolina finally managed to break back in the seventh game to close the gap to 4-3, Eala responded immediately, breaking serve again in the very next game. There was no hesitation, no loss of confidence, and no surrender of momentum. That response highlighted just how much her game had evolved. In Rome against Elena Rybakina, moments of pressure had caused her level to dip. In Berlin, pressure produced the opposite effect. Every challenge was met with an answer, and every shift in momentum was confronted head. That is not a small adjustment. It is the difference between a player who can compete with the best and a player who can consistently defeat them. The second set followed a remarkably similar pattern. Eala secured an early break, built another lead, weathered Svitolina's attempts to fight back, and calmly served out the match. Once again, her return game was the foundation of her success. She won more points on both first serve and second serve returns than Svitolina across the match, constantly applying pressure whenever opportunities appeared. She also delivered 4 aces and maintained a higher first serve percentage, matching Svitolina's power while remaining more consistent. Her aggression on return was intelligent rather than reckless. She picked her moments carefully, read the serve early, and repeatedly forced Svitolina into uncomfortable positions. The same relentless pressure that had gradually worn down Rybakina 2 days earlier was now affecting another top 10 opponent. With the victory, Eala recorded the 6th top 10 win of her career. Even more remarkable was how those victories had come. All 6 were achieved in straight sets, and 4 were against players ranked inside the top 5. At a certain point, results like that stop being coincidences. They become evidence of a pattern. When Eala faces elite opposition, she is not merely hanging around and hoping to survive a deciding set. More often than not, she is imposing her game, controlling key moments, and beating some of the best players in the world with authority. She beats them in straight sets. The consistency of that pattern suggests something deeper about how Alex Eala's game matches up against the very best players in the world. Whether it is her return game, her movement, her ability to absorb pace, or her skill in redirecting power, the evidence continues to point in the same direction. This is not a coincidence. It is a repeatable formula that has produced results against elite opposition. The semi-final against Linda Noskova, however, presented a completely different challenge. Rain delayed the start, and when play finally began, Noskova was performing at an exceptional level. She had not dropped a set throughout the tournament and was striking the ball with a level of aggression that, for the first time all week, made Eala's renowned return game appear less effective. Noskova broke serve early and repeatedly, firing 9 aces and 33 winners while committing only 15 unforced errors. The result was a commanding 6-2, 6-4 victory completed in just 69 minutes. There is no need to soften that reality. Noskova was simply brilliant. Yet even within the defeat, there were signs of Eala's growing resilience. Trailing 3-1 in the second set against an opponent who seemed to be gaining momentum with every game, Eala mounted a response. She won 3 consecutive games, breaking Noskova's serve and holding her own twice to surge ahead 4-3. For a brief stretch, she had dragged the match back into competitive territory and created the possibility of a turnaround. Noskova, however, answered like a player operating in complete confidence, winning the next 3 games in a row to close out the match. That response highlighted the difference between a player enjoying one of the best weeks of her career and a player who had spent several days battling through physically and emotionally demanding matches against top opposition. The key distinction is that Eala was beaten, but she was not broken. She left the court with her game, her confidence, and her progress fully intact. The semi-final loss reflected the extraordinary level of her opponent rather than any decline in her own performance. When the rankings were updated the following Monday, Eala climbed 5 places to a career-high world ranking of number 30. The rise carried even greater significance because it secured her status as the number 29 seed at Wimbledon. For the first time in her career, she would arrive at the All England club with the protection and expectations that come with being seeded. She would not be a qualifier fighting for a place in the draw or a wild card hoping for favorable circumstances. She would be a seeded player expected to compete deep into the tournament. At just 21 years old, the Quezon City native who trained in Mallorca had positioned herself among the elite names in women's tennis. More importantly, she was doing so while playing the best grass-court tennis of her career, just as the sport's most prestigious stage was preparing to open its doors.